Jon Snow. He begins life branded a bastard, destined for obscurity. But somewhere along the way, he steps into the unknown, becoming one of the most beloved and complex figures in Game of Thrones. He's more than a character. He's a symbol of resilience, of doing what's right, even when it comes at a cost. In Jon Snow's journey, we find a guide to living a life of purpose and strength, where bravery and integrity matter more than power. Tonight, we'll follow Jon's journey to understand how, in a world driven by power struggles, he became a different kind of hero, one who won by staying true to himself, embracing the shadows. Jon was born into a world where identity is everything, but for him, that identity was a stain. Being a Stark bastard meant living with a constant reminder of his otherness. Yet this shadow, instead of breaking him, became his foundation. Instead of resenting his lineage, he chose to accept his place, even finding kinship with those cast aside by society. At Winterfell, he wasn't the noble son, he was the outcast. But that sense of exclusion fueled his resilience. The truth is, Jon's real power comes from his willingness to step into uncomfortable spaces and make them his own. It's easy to fit in, to be accepted. What takes strength is thriving in the shadows. Jon's early days at Winterfell prepared him for a lifetime of struggle, showing him that acceptance isn't as powerful as understanding oneself. Taking the black wasn't about running away. It was Jon's way of embracing his outsider status. He chose a life of duty, of service, knowing it would strip away any chance of glory or status. Joining the Night's Watch, he entered a world where honor wasn't handed out. It had to be earned through resilience and discipline. In a world of easy choices, Jon chose the hardest path. The power of brotherhood. In the Night's Watch, Jon found not just comrades, but a brotherhood of outcasts, criminals, and exiles, all men who had to fight for their place. Here, he learned that strength doesn't come from individual power, but from standing side by side with others, bonded by purpose. The power of community became clear to him when he saw that true loyalty isn't given out of duty alone, but forged through shared hardship. Jon could have chosen to lord over his new brothers, to wield his skill and knowledge like a weapon. Instead, he saw each man's worth and fought alongside them. In those cold, dark nights at the wall, he learned that leadership is earned not through force, but through shared trials. This brotherhood wasn't built on blood ties, but on trust and courage, bonds that would outlast any bloodline. Leading others isn't about glory. It's about standing on the front line, willing to face danger first. Jon showed us that strength doesn't come from power. It comes from knowing that you don't stand alone. This brotherhood forged a courage within him that would be tested again and again. Crossing into the unknown. Beyond the wall lay a wilderness, a place most of the Night's Watch saw as an endless threat. But Jon was different. Instead of viewing the wildlings as the enemy, he crossed into their world, immersing himself in their culture, their values. What he found was surprising: a fierce but honorable people who valued freedom above all else. Jon's time with the wildlings wasn't just a mission. It became a journey of discovery, forcing him to question the beliefs he'd been raised with. He found himself falling for Ygritte, a woman whose loyalty to her people ran as deep as his own. Through her, he learned that the world isn't divided into clear lines of right and wrong. It's complex, messy, and sometimes love comes from unexpected places. This experience taught Jon to see humanity beyond divisions, beyond borders. In the wildlings, he saw a reflection of the Night's Watch and realized that what separated them was fear and misunderstanding, not inherent evil. Jon's journey beyond the wall was a journey into the unknown parts of himself, teaching him that courage means not only facing danger, but also confronting his own beliefs. Life's real test is often about stepping outside of what we know, challenging what we've always assumed to be true. Jon found strength in realizing that no one has a monopoly on truth. And through this realization, he became a bridge, uniting two worlds that had long seen each other as enemies. Standing tall amidst betrayal. Betrayal. It's the ultimate test of character. After all he'd sacrificed, after proving his loyalty time and again, Jon was struck down by the very men he had protected. The pain of betrayal is not just physical. It cuts to the core, forcing us to question everything. And yet, when Jon returned from the edge of death, he didn't seek revenge. He chose forgiveness over bitterness, duty over anger. Returning from death, Jon faced a profound choice. Should he let vengeance consume him, or should he continue his mission with a clearer heart? By rejecting hatred, Jon showed that his resilience wasn't about strength alone. It was about remaining untainted by the darkness around him. It's easy to fall into vengeance, to let our anger define us, but Jon's path is different. He shows us that true strength lies in the refusal to become like those who hurt us. Forgiving isn't weakness, it's the deepest form of strength. Jon's story reminds us that those who hold on to their values in the face of betrayal emerge with an unbreakable spirit. The world may be harsh, but Jon teaches us that we can choose how we respond to it. The power of sacrifice. When Jon kneels to Daenerys, he does so not out of submission, but out of a profound understanding of the greater good. He realizes that his pride is insignificant compared to the fate of the people. Unlike so many around him who lust for power, Jon values peace and unity over his own status. Jon understands the danger of ego. He could have clung to his title, his honor as a Stark, yet he chooses humility. True power, he shows us, lies not in titles but in actions, in doing what's necessary, even if it means putting aside our pride. When he kneels, he proves that he isn't concerned with glory. He's concerned with what will ultimately benefit everyone. By sacrificing his own pride, Jon demonstrates that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones within. He shows us that real wisdom means understanding when to let go, when to place others above ourselves. True greatness isn't about standing tallest, it's about standing firm in what's right. In the Battle of the Bastards, Jon faces impossible odds. It's a moment that encapsulates his journey. Against a monstrous enemy with no guarantee of survival, he chooses to stand. He doesn't fight for glory or for revenge, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Jon's willingness to stand alone shows us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the determination to act in spite of it. Even when everything seems lost, when the world is closing in, he fights on, holding on to a glimmer of hope. Jon teaches us that sometimes the only person you can rely on is yourself, and that's enough. In the end, Jon's journey wasn't about ruling or glory. It was about finding peace within himself. He walks away from titles and power, choosing a life of freedom in the north among the people who helped him understand his true self. Jon's story is a reminder that life's real victories aren't the ones others see. They're the ones we carry quietly within. His journey teaches us that peace isn't found in what we gain, but in who we become. True greatness isn't about defeating others, it's about overcoming ourselves. Jon Snow's path is one of quiet strength, of resilience in a world that tried to break him at every turn. He teaches us that ultimately, the greatest battles we face are the ones within. In his journey, we see the power of standing firm in our values, of forging our own path. Jon Snow may have been a king, a warrior, a lover, but above all, he was a man who chose to stay true to himself. And maybe that's the hardest path of all. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe and share.